Hello, everybody, and welcome to IO Radio. I am Adam Smith, aka American Scream, and with me is Sal Bayat.
Hi, everybody.
Did I pronounce your name right again?
Yeah, you got it.
Bayat. Okay, good. We are here because some of you may have heard the Justice Department is scheduled to announce an international cryptocurrency enforcement action. So we're going to speculate on what that is, and then in just a few minutes, this conference is going to start, and we'll find it out. So Sal, what's your speculation on what the Department of Justice is going to announce?
Well, there's what everyone hopes it's going to be, which is, of course, Tether, but I don't think that's going to be it.
Ooh,
I suspect it'll be, one of these guys who's in a non-extradition country who has an exchange that went bankrupt, has stolen a bunch of money, and they're going to charge him with something. That would be my guess.
so my guess is that this is going to be directly related to FTX. It's going
Oh,
to
do you
be.
think so?
My guess is that they're going to announce that they filed charges against somebody else in association with FTX. Maybe that co-CEO guy that's disappeared, or maybe through the discovery and the bankruptcy process, they found out there was some money laundering more clearly being done, and that's my guess. Knowing how the feds kind of
Who-
work, usually they go after one guy, shake him down until he turns somebody else over, and they kind of go from there.
SBF has pled not guilty, though. So who would it be? You're saying there's a CEO guy that hasn't been charged?
There's a co-CEO of Alameda that left a few months before. I forget that
That's
guy's
right.
name.
You're right.
He's largely just disappeared. So maybe he had a big yacht. Maybe he pulled into the wrong port and got pounced on. I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see. I feel as though I need to temper my expectations.
No, yeah, me too. But see, right now is the moment before they make the announcement, that they found 3 Bitcoin at the border, inside of a bird bath or something.
I really want it to be Tether or some other stable coin. That would be my desire, my wish.
It could be something related to Binance too, because
Yeah, or Coinbase, or I
Mhm.
mean, this is all fraudulent. So
I don't
it could
think
be
Coinbase is going to go down just yet. I think they're going to more implode themselves. But if I was a conspiracy theorist, I would say, well, since Sam Bankman-Fried paid off all those politicians, they're going to protect him and they're going to go after Binance because that's the way the rich people get things done in America.
Everyone.
Oh, here it
Thanks
is.
all for being here. Today, the Department of Justice has dealt a significant blow
All right, we gotta go back
to the
it's
crypto
online.
crime
on my side.
ecosystem.
So
Justice Department agents and prosecutors, working in partnership with the Treasury Department and French law enforcement, have disrupted Bitslotto, a
What?
China-based cryptocurrency exchange notorious for laundering criminal proceeds from the dark net. And last night, agents of the FBI arrested Bitslotto's founder,
Bitslotto.
Anatoly Legadimov.
Anybody heard of
I
that?
am joined today by the Assistant Attorney
No, I
General for
haven't.
the Criminal Division, Kenneth Polite, the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of New York, Breon Peace, FBI Associate Deputy Director, Brian Turner,
well, it's almost
and the
Tether.
Deputy Secretary of
So
the Treasury,
we were both
Wally
wrong.
Adeyemo.
There's so many crypto scams out there.
Today's law enforcement actions put all of those who seek to exploit the cryptocurrency ecosystem on notice that the
So
Department of
I
Justice
guess we're
will
not
use
posting this
every
video
tool,
online.
working along with our partners, every tool that we have to attack
Yeah,
the
blow your
criminal
nose.
use
Yeah.
of the dark net and cryptocurrency.
Well, I
And
thought
we are taking
it sounds like
steps
you're good,
to
Mike.
address the crisis
Hold
of
on, hold on.
confidence in the cryptocurrency markets, where criminals and fraudsters seek to operate beyond the reach of law enforcement. Malicious actors, working from what they think are safe havens, are exploiting
he's talking
crypto
about-
markets
she's talking about
and
Matt Damon,
flouting the
malicious
laws and the
actors.
regulations that guard the integrity of our financial system, and
Okay.
along with it, the earnings and investments of law-abiding Americans. It's no secret that cyber criminals rely on these bad actors to launder their criminal proceeds from cryptocurrency into
We could also play the
fiat
recording
currency.
of this if we wanted to comment
But
on it.
today,
But
thanks to
it's
a
a bit of
coordinated
a non-event.
international effort,
Well, let's
Justice
see
Department
how much money
prosecutors
they
and
talked about.
agents have disrupted a busy corner of this criminal
Bitslotto,
ecosystem.
a busy corner.
Last night in Miami, FBI agents arrested Legadimov, a Russian national and the founder and majority owner of Bitslotto, a Hong Kong registered cryptocurrency exchange. The charges allege that he operated Bitslotto as a high-tech financial hub, as he put it, that catered to, quote, known crooks. Bitslotto failed to implement safeguards required by US law, safeguards that enable law enforcement to detect and to investigate financial crimes. Instead, Bitslotto facilitated the transmission of hundreds of millions of dollars in illicit funds, fueling darknet marketplaces, and laundering the proceeds of ransomware attacks. For example, as alleged, Bitslotto was a crucial financial resource for the notorious Hydra darknet market, the disruption of which I announced from this podium last April, at that time with our German partners.
I'm not familiar with
Now,
Hydra.
Hydra was the world's
heard of it.
longest running and largest darknet marketplace, responsible for 80% of the world's darknet transactions.
How do you know that?
Together,
Well,
Hydra and
How do you know
Bitslotto
100% of all the darknet
formed a
transactions?
high-tech axis
because they
of
control the
crypto
Tor
crime.
nodes, dude. Come on.
Hydra buyers funded illicit purchases
That is
of
probably
illegal
true.
drugs,
Yeah.
stolen financial
They do traffic
information,
analysis.
and hacking tools from crypto accounts hosted at Bitslotto. And sellers of these illegal goods and services at Hydra sent criminal proceeds to accounts at Bitslotto, all to the tune of over $700 million in direct and indirect transfers
The reason
between
this guy got arrested,
2018 and
He
2022.
showed up in Miami. Probably
Now,
showed up
I've
in
said
Miami.
before
so don't go
that
to
we
the
would go
States if you're a
after
crypto
the
scammer, but
entire
also because
ecosystem that allows
he was
cyber
involved with something
criminals
like the
and
Silk
illicit
Road.
actors
Right.
to flourish.
And the US DOJ
Today's
does not
action
like the
against
Silk Road,
Bitslotto,
where
as
people who
with the
sell
disruption of
fentanyl or
Hydra,
assassinations
reflects
online.
another critical step in executing on that strategy. At the time of Legadimov's arrest, and continuing into the early hours of this morning, the department's international and domestic partners engaged in a coordinated campaign of disruption. That campaign includes law enforcement actions in multiple European countries, the seizure of Bitlotto's servers, and enforcement actions by the Treasury Department here in the United States. These actions show not only the broad scope of the defendant's alleged crimes, but also the international net dropped by law enforcement to stop him and his business partners. With these actions, today marks the end of the Hydra Bitslotto crypto crime axis. To all of those exploiting the cryptocurrency ecosystem to enable crypto crime, we have a clear message. We will not only target hackers, fraudsters, and criminals that mask their profits in cryptocurrency, we are also unleashing the full force of the Department of Justice on the illicit actors and entities that support cyber criminals, like Legadimov and Bitslotto. Operating offshore or moving your servers
Just a few bad
out of the
apples in
continental
crypto.
U.S.
Yep.
will
Remember that.
not shield you. And whether you break our laws from China or Europe or abuse our financial system from a tropical island, you can expect to
Shout
answer
out to
for your
SPF.
crimes inside a United States courtroom. I want to thank the agents, analysts, and prosecutors who worked diligently to investigate this case. And finally, a tremendous thanks to our foreign partners and the Treasury Department for their collaboration in this and other cryptocurrency and cybercrime cases. And now let me turn the podium over to Assistant Attorney General Polite.
Okay. So Bitslotto, hadn't even heard of them.
Thank you, Deputy
How
Attorney General
dense
Monaco.
this whole thing is full of criminals.
When the department announced the creation of the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team in late 2021, we set forth the blueprint on how INSET would work to disrupt criminal abuse of the cryptocurrency ecosystem. Bitslotto accomplished
I'm
this
going to pause it
in
right
part.
here. So essentially, this is just another one of these exchanges that popped up that wasn't doing KYC or AML protection. And, they caught them. I guess the operative thing is if you start one of these things, shut it down, start another one, shut it down.
I don't know if I would say that. I think the issue is that they were involved or closely linked to a darknet website that was selling drugs and other illicit services. It's that association that caused them to focus on this.
Right. But I think
So-
it's hard to find one that isn't associated with something like that. The money has to come from somewhere.
Right, but I think what they're saying is that there's clear coordination or collusion between that exchange. So, yeah, while Binance might make it easy for drug pushers or for cartels to launder their money, they have enough plausible deniability that it's not as easy for the government to go after them. I suspect there's either some correspondence or some evidence that they have that makes it so that this is possible.
Well, if you follow what's happened with this, they took down the dark market first.
Correct.
So once they seized all of their servers, they were able to probably trace the path of where the money was flowing.
Yeah, or even emails, communications.
I would argue that all of these exchanges, none of them are transparent. None of, in many cases, you don't even really know who's running them or anything like that. If you had access to that, you'd find there's a path from any one of them to some dark market. Obviously, if you take the dark market down, that's how you implicate the exchanges. But I bet if they'd seized the exchanges servers first, then there would have been a path to that dark market.
Yeah, and I mean, there's obviously some politicking going on here as well, where they're talking about the creation of the agency. They're sort of justifying the existence that this is needed. I think that that's correct, but you can see that they're very specifically doing that. It makes me wonder, are they potentially angling for more funding or to go after bigger targets? Because do they realize that the entire industry is really a scam? That it's not just a few bad apples. It's really just endemic to how all of this exists and how it's designed.
I think probably most of them know that the whole industry is like this, but they can't say that publicly because that's kind of like, guilty until proven innocent. Even though all the evidence indicates that there's no real good actors. There may be some naive actors, but there's nobody truly good because if you do your due diligence, very little in this industry makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much of this is just them just going to posture and introduce each other and talk about the role of and it certainly is a useful thing. I think in this case, the ties to Russian nationals is very topical too, given the Ukrainian situation and the sanctions.
Well, yeah, and what's interesting is what else was connected to Hydra? Are there other exchanges? Is Bitslotto connected? Because this ecosystem, everybody sort of I think knows each other and is connected in some way. Was Bitslotto just I don't know anything about it. Was it just something completely isolated from the rest of crypto? Or is it tied to other things also?
Yeah, I don't know.
That would be my question. I don't know.
I mean, there's not a lot of meat in this thing. They're just saying here's this company, we're going to we're accusing them of this, we've arrested the people. But they haven't, I guess we haven't seen a formal indictment where they would have actually itemized what the specific charges. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds serious. They're doing an announcement. The last one they did was 6 months ago. So one would assume that there's some pretty serious charges here.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's hear some questions and see what they've got to say.
Who is using this exchange, and are you seeing any overlap between the other big exchange, which is in the news lately, which is FTX?
So I'll start off on your first question. don't really have anything more to say about Mr. Legedimov's activities in Miami, other than the fact that in the early morning hours he was arrested by agents of the FBI, and we're going to take it from there.
Probably a strip
and
club.
Can you repeat your second question?
Yeah.
What are you learning about the customer base of Bitslotto, who is using that service? I think Wally, the emails talked about that a little bit a second ago, and whether you're seeing any overlap between that customer base and the customer base at FTX, which obviously is in the news right now.
Well, I'll start and see if either Kenneth or the U.S. Attorney want to make any additional comments. I'm not going to speak
They
to
wanna tie it to FTX.
the ongoing investigation and matter regarding FTX, but as alleged in the court papers unsealed today, and as referenced by the U.S. Attorney, Bitslotto was being used by a host of cyber criminals to form, as I noted, this high-tech axis of crypto crime, used to launder funds, used to buy and sell and host the wallets of those buying and selling illicit goods. But let me see if either the Assistant Attorney General or the U.S. Attorney want to add.
Just to second the comments from our Deputy Attorney General, I would simply note that the defendant here has been charged in a criminal complaint. There is always a possibility that additional charges may follow, and in particular, our investigative efforts continue both here and abroad.
Sadie, Wall Street Journal. Hi there. This question's for the deputy. These questions are for the Deputy Attorney General. I'm wondering what message these coordinated actions should send to the broader crypto markets, and if there is any sort of geopolitical significance.
I think
to the
they
fact
already
that he
answered
was
that.
living in China, but was a Russian national. And also, while we have you up here, I am hoping that you might say whether you anticipate your specials counsel investigations will be wrapped up by the end of the year when the midterm election cycle is in full swing.
Well, on your second question, I've got no predictions to make and nothing to add to what the Attorney General announced last week. And on your first question, I think what today's actions really show is, one, we will work in a coordinated and a collaborative fashion with partners here in the United States and more broadly all around the globe to root out those who seek to exploit the cryptocurrency markets, those who seek to find safe haven in
That's funny.
countries, whether they're
The
Russia,
market
whether
is
they're China,
exploitative.
whether they're places in Europe, and that there is no place
Like saying you're
that
gonna
is beyond
gamble
the
in a
reach
casino.
of U.S. law enforcement.
Those who
and our
exploit the
partners.
Mexican drug cartel system.
Daphne from Reuters, one of our friends from Treasury.
Thank you so much. Did you find any link between Bitslotto and Russia's conflict in Ukraine? And did Russian actors use Bitslotto to circumvent sanctions imposed as a result of the conflict in Ukraine?
Obviously,
So as my colleagues have said, our investigation
sanctions are in place because
continues,
of
and what we
Ukraine.
do know is that Russia has set up an ecosystem that is permissive for cyber criminals and for the ecosystem that allows them to finance those crimes. Our goal is to ensure that Russia can't use cryptocurrency or other means to circumvent our sanctions. That is part of why we use this new authority to go after Bitslotto.
I love this
To
guy.
make
He's
clear
got
that
this
now
such
they're
a
an international
calm,
pariah.
mellow tone
And
of
our
voice,
message
for a
to,
Fed.
those actors who want to use crypto to try
Yeah,
and
I mean,
circumvent our
part of me
sanctions
wonders if this
in
is a bit of
Russia
making a
or any
mountain out
other
of a
jurisdiction
molehill.
which we put.
Like there's definitely where they mentioned the creation of that task force, and they're really trying to show, hey, we've been successful. But okay, so they've dealt with this one exchange who is tied to a darknet operation called Hydra. But has the task force really been that successful? If you haven't gone after Tether, you haven't gone after the people that are perpetrating multi-billion-dollar frauds in the industry, what have you really accomplished?
Yeah, well, I think the feds have not officially identified the crypto industry as a criminal enterprise yet. We're a bit ahead of them, recognizing that's its primary use case. But I think their job is basically to react to matters that are in the interest of public safety, and obviously that's going to be prioritized. So if you've got, fentanyl, dark market selling fentanyl that are killing people, that's a high priority. If you've got violating sanctions that are funding the illegal invasion in Ukraine. Those are probably two priorities that are going to be higher than, crypto is full of scammers.
Yeah, but doesn't this also just legitimize the industry? Like they're saying, we're going to protect the crypto industry and go after people that seek to exploit the crypto industry. Well, the entire industry is exploitative. You should be going after the whole industry. You should be collapsing the whole thing, and then none of this stuff can happen anyways.
Well,
Or it's at least far harder to do it.
well,
That's what should be happening.
that's what we believe, but we're much deeper into it. We've sought to understand the basic nature of crypto and what it actually offers to society. And we see, and we can actually prove that empirically, that there's not really any kind of ethical, useful, moral value that the system provides. I don't know if it's the government's job to philosophically examine the entirety of an industry and determine, whether it's just
But
shouldn't
these
exist,
these people know. They must know, right?
They
They're not
know,
dumb
but you know
people.
what? Like I said, they react to. It's just like, it's the city that I live in. People are always complaining about the roads. There's too many potholes. There's all kinds of problems. And I always say, when's the last time you called the Department of Transportation? Doesn't matter. I'll call them, and it wouldn't matter. How many times have you called them? I don't call them. Well, then there you go. I think generally that's what government does, is it responds to whoever is petitioning or lobbying it. And
So
if
you're sorry. Go ahead.
so, me and you, we are whining into the ether about how we know the whole industry is flawed. If we were actually constantly filing reports with the FBI's complaint system, that stuff would be trickling up into the system. They'd get more inquiries. I think they respond to whatever lights are blinking on their dashboard. That may not include, hey, it just dawned on me the whole crypto industry is a scam. Even if it is, they take action based on evidence of what they can convict. So if they don't have evidence that, for example, Coinbase is doing something illegal, we all see the empirical, we see the correlations there. Like this recent Bitcoin pump was probably clearly artificial, but we don't have the smoking gun. You know what I mean? So while we know we can speculate, that doesn't make any sense other than it's just market manipulation. Without that actual evidence, what can we do? And the Justice Department is the same way. Now,
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're like. I agree completely, and it's good that they went after these people, but at the same time, it seems very much like a small fry kind of thing. It's not it's for the amount of for their first announcement in 6 months, and this is it. And who knows? We don't know what investigations are underway. Maybe they have wiretaps on everyone that works for Tether, and they're building a case.
yeah.
I mean, we don't know what's being investigated.
Well,
and
also
what
remember,
investigations are underway.
let's look back at the original Charles Ponzi scheme. There was a lot of people that were very suspicious that his scheme wasn't financially solvent. The premise that he was going to buy these mail coupons in one country, move them over to another country, and take advantage of a spread exchange and profit from it. And he was going to scale that up so that the profits were really huge. And, even people that were skeptical it could be done, even the Postal Department said, based on Ponzi's claims of how much money he can make people, we can confirm we've nowhere near issued enough of these coupons that would actually produce that kind of profit. So
that's what triggered everything. That's what triggered the Ponzi collapsing.
Well,
that's when he started to be investigated, if I recall correctly.
What triggered it, though, was people hearing that and closing their accounts, and caused it to implode. Before that, because I think they reported it to the authorities multiple times. Same thing with Bernie Madoff. There was people that kept reporting to the SEC saying,
yeah,
Madoff's scheme doesn't make sense. There's no way this can be solved. And the SEC said, until we have victims, it's hard for us to do anything. We can look into it, but unless we have a plaintiff or a victim, there's not really much of an incentive. And I've run into this with the FBI before, where I've had somebody that hacked into my server and I did all the research, you know, of where they were coming from and all of that. But if I couldn't prove a certain significant level of damages, they were unlikely to take the case and prosecute.
Interesting.
People say, oh, just the government, they just randomly enforce whatever they want, but it has a lot to do with how much evidence it is. And there is definitely a political component. Right now, the sanctions against Russia and the fentanyl opioid crisis, those are high priorities. So they're going to jump on a case like that much more quickly than Tether, which is going to be a hard case to even try to figure out.
All of this stuff that was connected, like Celsius, Voyager, FTX, how many more collapses do we have to have before they start to get it in their heads that this is because it's all connected to a fraudulent industry where there's no cash flow and there are people taking money up front, not doing anything and just pocketing the money and walking away. And you have the SEC, who again also has not really done much in terms of going after until after things have collapsed. So I don't know, like how many more victims do we really need at this point to start looking at the systemic issues in crypto?
Well, compare it to network marketing and multi-level marketing. Whenever you hear of a company that has a kind of pyramid type scheme, you automatically assume the whole thing is a scam. But depending upon how that business is structured, it may not technically be illegal. And I think that's, there's lots of industries that have those nuances that make it difficult to just go after the whole industry.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, maybe you're right. I just think what they basically said in this press conference is, let it be known that we will go after those who exploit the multi-level marketing industry. It's kind of like, wait a second.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good
Wait
analogy.
a second. Hold on. Like, it's great. I'm glad you brought down Amway. That's really great. But you're telling me that Herbalife is all good?
Yeah.
And the industry and the systems that underpin that are kosher? I think you might be missing the point. And that's kind of what it feels like here. It's like, okay, are you guys missing the point? It makes me wonder.
No, that's definitely an interesting and a good argument. I think a lot of it has to do with intent and how obvious the intent is. For example, in one of the crypto critical subreddits, somebody asked, how come Elon Musk is not being arrested like that woman from Theranos was? He's involved in deceptive practices and misleading the legitimacy of his products. She got jail time, and he seems to be walking around. And people argued that unlike Theranos, whose product apparently never ever really worked at all, at least Tesla has an electric vehicle. Now, the self-driving capabilities are obviously been misleading and overstated. And so people were, people like you.
He lied about a feature. Yeah, he lied about a feature as opposed to the whole thing.
Well, also, it's more importantly, it's can you show there was a malicious intent to defraud? Like, he's being sued right now because of his tweets about taking Twitter private and mentioning numbers. The argument there is probably has a lot to do, and I'm not a lawyer, and this is not financial advice, but I think the degree to which you can prove malicious intent, you like the Nikola thing where they had that truck, that Cybertruck, was completely fabricated.
Yeah.
And so when you can show that, although something just came out that in 2016 there was a Tesla self-driving simulation that Tesla still cites that one of its engineers said was faked. So
yeah, that just came out.
Yeah, that is more along the lines of the kind of intentional attempt to defraud and mislead people, where that line gets crossed. And I think when in the crypto industry, that's still another standard. How intentional are these people? And of course, because it's a new industry and because it's very complicated and not everybody understands it, and because just the simple act of engaging in crypto trading involves so much different software and so many disparate systems, it's really hard to show a quote conspiracy, I guess let's wrap this up. We'll see what happens with it. Thanks everybody for watching and whatever. Until next time.